From bus driver to dictator, the untold rise of Nicolás Maduro. Roots, streets, and the first taste of power. Nicolás Maduro was not born in a palace. He was born in a city full of noise and struggle. His life did not begin with wealth. It began in the working streets of Caracas. Caracas is the capital of Venezuela. It is crowded and loud. Buses fill the roads. Markets fill the sidewalks. People work long hours to survive. Many families live day by day. Maduro was born on November 23, 1962. His family was poor. They belonged to the working class. Money was always limited. Life was never easy. His father was involved in unions and politics. This mattered. Politics entered Maduro's life early. It was part of daily talk at home. Arguments about power and justice were normal. He grew up hearing words like workers, rights, and struggle. Maduro was not a top student in school. He did not shine in exams. Records say he did not finish high school. His path was not academic. His path was practical. He learned from people. He learned from the streets. Even as a young man, he liked to speak. He liked to organize. He became a student leader for a short time. He learned how to talk to groups. He learned how to persuade. He learned how to stand in front of others and lead. At a young age, Maduro made a choice. He could try to enter university. He did not. He chose political training instead. He wanted to learn about ideas. He wanted to learn about power. In 1986, he went to Cuba. He stayed for about 1 year. Cuba was important to him. It was a socialist country. It was shaped by revolution. There he studied political thought. He learned about socialism. He learned about state control. He learned about loyalty to a movement. Cuba left a deep mark on him. It shaped how he saw the world. It shaped what he believed. The idea was simple. The state must guide society. The revolution must be protected. Opposition must be controlled. When Maduro returned to Venezuela, reality was waiting. He needed a job. He did not have a degree. He did not have money. He had only his voice and his will. He became a bus driver. He worked in the Caracas subway system. His job looked ordinary. He drove long hours. He dealt with traffic. He dealt with angry passengers. He felt the pressure of daily work. But this job was more than just a job. It was his classroom. It was his stage. It was his training ground. Bus drivers in Caracas worked hard. They earned little. They faced danger on the roads. They faced stress every day. They faced a system that did not protect them. Maduro saw this. He felt this. He lived this. Instead of staying silent, he spoke. He talked to other drivers. He listened to their problems. He helped organize meetings. He stood up for better pay. He stood up for better conditions. Slowly, he became a union leader. This was his first real position of influence. People listened to him. Workers trusted him. They saw him as one of their own. Maduro learned something important during this time. Power begins with people. If you control the crowd, you control the moment. If you speak for workers, you gain loyalty. He learned how to frame problems. He learned how to blame systems. He learned how to point at enemies. He learned how to promise change. The bus was no longer just a vehicle. It became a symbol. A poor worker rising from the streets. A voice from below. But Venezuela in the early 1990s was changing. The country was in crisis. Inflation was rising. Jobs were disappearing. Poverty was spreading. People were angry. People were tired. Many blamed the government. Many felt betrayed by the old political system. Then a new figure appeared. His name was Hugo Chavez. He was a former army officer. In 1992, he tried to overthrow the government. The coup failed. Chavez was arrested. But something strange happened. Chavez became famous. Many poor people saw him as a hero. They saw him as a man who dared to challenge power. They saw him as hope. Maduro followed this closely. He admired Chavez. He believed in Chavez's message. He believed Venezuela needed radical change. Maduro and others worked to free Chavez from prison. They organized support. They spread his ideas. They built a movement. When Chavez was released in 1994, Maduro was ready. He became a loyal supporter. He stood beside Chavez. He believed in the revolution. At this time, Maduro met a woman who would shape his future. Her name was Cilia Flores. She was a lawyer. She defended Chavez. She helped spread his ideas. She became Maduro's partner in politics and in life. Together, they campaigned. They organized. They traveled. They spoke to the poor. They spoke to workers. They promised change. In 1998, Hugo Chavez won the presidency. This was a turning point. The old political order collapsed. A new movement took power. For Maduro, doors opened. The bus driver entered government. The union leader entered the state. Maduro joined Hugo Chavez's political group. He was no longer just a worker. He became a politician. His rise began. In 1999, Venezuela rewrote its constitution. This was not a small event. It reshaped the country's laws. It reshaped its institutions. Maduro was part of the group that wrote it. He had never finished high school, yet now he helped write the nation's rules. This showed how fast his life was changing. In 2000, Maduro was elected to the National Assembly. He became a lawmaker. He sat in halls of power. He debated laws. He voted on the future of the country. He learned how government worked. He learned how deals were made. He learned how power moved behind closed doors. Maduro was loyal to Chavez. Loyalty mattered in this new system. Chavez rewarded those who stood by him. Maduro stood by him without question. For years, Maduro climbed step by step. He was not the most brilliant speaker. He was not the most famous figure, but he was always present, always loyal, always dependable. By 2005, Maduro became president of the National Assembly. This was a major role. He now led the country's main lawmaking body. The former bus driver now controlled debates and votes. This was not an accident. It was the result of years of loyalty. It was the reward for never breaking with Chavez. In 2006, Maduro became foreign minister. His world grew larger. He traveled abroad. He met world leaders. He spoke for Venezuela on the global stage. He represented the revolution. He defended Chavez's policies. He criticized the United States. He praised socialism. Maduro's image changed. He was no longer just a worker. He was now a statesman, a face of the government. Yet his story still carried the image of the streets. He spoke of being a simple man. He spoke of being one of the people. He reminded others of his life as a bus driver. This image was powerful. It created trust among the poor. It created the idea that anyone could rise. It made him appear close to ordinary citizens. But power was already shaping him. He learned how to control messages. He learned how to defend authority. He learned how to silence criticism with words. By 2012, something crucial happened. Hugo Chavez became seriously ill. Cancer was weakening him. The revolution needed a successor. Chavez made his choice. He chose Nicolás Maduro as vice president. This was a clear signal. Maduro was his chosen heir. Many were surprised. Maduro was not the strongest figure in the movement, but he was the most loyal. Chávez trusted him. Chávez told the nation to support Maduro if he died. This was a powerful endorsement. It placed Maduro in a unique position. Only months later, in 2013, Chávez died. Venezuela was in shock. Millions mourned. The country felt lost. The revolution had lost its founder. Now it needed a new leader. Maduro stepped forward. He ran for president. He promised to continue Chávez's path. He promised to protect the poor. He promised to defend socialism. He called himself the true son of Chávez. The election was close, very close. Maduro won by a small margin. The opposition questioned the result. They asked for a recount. Maduro refused. From that moment, doubt entered his rule. From that moment, conflict began. But officially, he was now president. The bus driver had reached the highest office, from the streets of Caracas to the palace of power. This rise was extraordinary. It seemed like a story of hope, a poor worker becoming a national leader. Yet beneath the surface, something darker was forming. The habits of control, the need for loyalty, the fear of losing power. Maduro had not risen through education. He had not risen through open debate. He had risen through loyalty, timing, and crisis. The system that lifted him also shaped him. A system where power flowed from one man. A system where institutions served the leader. A system where opposition was treated as threat. This was the end of his rise and the beginning of something else. Part 2. Power, Crisis, and the Birth of Control. When Nicolás Maduro became president in 2013, the country was already weak. Venezuela depended almost completely on oil. Oil paid for food. Oil paid for medicine. Oil paid for social programs. Oil paid for stability. For years, high oil prices had hidden deep problems. The government spent more than it earned. Industry outside oil was neglected. Production inside the country fell. Imports became necessary for daily life. Then oil prices collapsed. The money stopped coming. The system began to crack. Maduro promised continuity. He said he would follow Hugo Chávez. He said he would protect the poor. He said socialism would save Venezuela. At first, some people believed him. They wanted stability. They wanted the revolution to continue. They trusted Chávez's chosen successor. But Maduro was not Chávez. He did not have the same charisma. He did not have the same emotional power. He did not have the same ability to unite people. From the start, his legitimacy was fragile. The election was narrow. The opposition felt cheated. They asked for transparency. They asked for a recount. Maduro refused. This refusal changed everything. Doubt entered the system. Trust began to disappear. Soon, protests began. Students went into the streets. Workers demanded food and jobs. Families demanded answers. The government responded with force. Police confronted demonstrators. Security forces used violence. People were arrested. Some were injured. Some were killed. Maduro spoke on television. He blamed the opposition. He blamed foreign powers. He blamed the United States. He blamed capitalism. He never blamed his own policies. The economy grew worse each year. Inflation increased. Then it exploded. Prices changed every day. Money lost value. People carried bags of cash to buy bread. Stores became empty. Shelves had no food. Hospitals had no medicine. Electricity failed. Water stopped running. Daily life turned into survival. Families skipped meals. Parents fed children first. Old people suffered in silence. Doctors left the country. Teachers left the country. Engineers left the country. Millions of Venezuelans fled. They crossed borders on foot. They slept on sidewalks. They began new lives with nothing. Maduro said there was no crisis. He said the media was lying. He said Venezuela was strong. But the streets told another story. By 2015, something changed in politics. The opposition won control of the National Assembly. This was a shock. For the first time, Maduro faced real resistance. The Assembly tried to challenge his power. They proposed new laws. They investigated corruption. They questioned government actions. Maduro reacted quickly. He turned to the Supreme Court. The court was loyal to him. It blocked the Assembly's decisions. It canceled laws. It removed authority. The elected legislature still existed, but it no longer had real power. In 2017, Maduro went further. He created a new political body. He called it the Constituent Assembly. This new body replaced the elected assembly. Only government supporters could join. Many countries called this illegal. Many said democracy was finished. Maduro ignored them. Protests returned. They were larger than before. They were louder. They were more desperate. The government responded harder. Security forces used more force. Arrests increased. Fear spread. New armed groups appeared. They were called colectivos. They rode motorcycles. They carried weapons. They attacked protesters. They defended the government. Speaking against the state became dangerous. Journalists were threatened. TV stations were closed. Websites were blocked. Opposition leaders were jailed. Some were forced into exile. Elections continued in name, but real choice disappeared. In 2018, Maduro ran for president again. Most opposition parties were banned. Many candidates were disqualified. Many voters stayed home. Maduro declared victory. The world rejected the result. Many governments said the election was fake. Sanctions followed. Venezuela became isolated. Trade was restricted. Assets were frozen. International pressure increased. In 2019, a new challenge emerged. Juan Guaidó declared himself interim president. He was recognized by many countries. The United States supported him. European nations supported him. For a moment, Maduro seemed weak. Many thought he would fall. But one thing kept him in power: the military. The armed forces remained loyal. This loyalty was everything. Maduro rewarded generals with money and influence. The military controlled food distribution. The military controlled businesses. The military protected the regime. As long as the army stood with him, Maduro remained president. Meanwhile, the country sank deeper into crisis. Oil production collapsed. Corruption spread. Drug trafficking accusations reached top officials. Maduro appeared often on television. He sang. He joked. He danced. For many people, this felt unreal. Children fainted in school from hunger. Parents skipped meals. Hospitals could not treat patients. Maduro smiled on screen. The distance between words and reality grew larger. Trust vanished. Hope faded. Maduro survived not by success. He survived by control. Control of courts. Control of media. Control of the military. Venezuela was no longer a democracy in practice. Institutions still existed, but power did not move. Elections still happened, but choice did not. This was when many began to call Maduro a dictator, not because of one decision, but because of a pattern: silencing opponents, ignoring voters, ruling by fear. From bus driver to president was a remarkable rise. From president to dictator was a tragic fall. But the story was not finished. Maduro still faced pressure. Pressure from protests, pressure from sanctions, pressure from the world. Many believed he would be removed. He was not. Part 3. Survival, Isolation, and the Meaning of Power. By the early 2020s, many believed Nicolás Maduro would fall. Years of crisis had weakened the country. Sanctions had isolated the government. Millions of people had left Venezuela. The economy had collapsed. But Maduro was still in power. He did not fall. He adapted. His survival depended on one principle: control. He controlled the military. He promoted loyal officers. He removed those who questioned him. The armed forces became his shield. The army was no longer just a national institution. It became part of the political system. Generals were given businesses. They controlled ports. They controlled food imports. They controlled key industries. As long as the army stayed loyal, Maduro stayed president. He also controlled food. The government created a system called CLAP. It distributed food boxes to poor families. These boxes were meant to help people survive, but the system became political. Support the government and receive food. Oppose the government and risk hunger. Food became a tool of loyalty. Survival became conditional. Fear entered daily life. People learned to stay quiet. Speaking openly could cost a job. It could cost freedom. It could cost safety. Maduro tightened control of the media. Independent newspapers disappeared. Radio stations were closed. Websites were blocked. Internet access was restricted. Truth became harder to find. News became propaganda. Criticism became dangerous. Internationally, Maduro stood alone. The United States imposed heavy sanctions. European countries followed. His assets were frozen. Travel became difficult. Maduro turned to new allies. Russia offered political support. China offered loans. Iran offered cooperation. Turkey offered trade. These alliances helped him survive. They did not fix the country, but they kept the government alive. Sanctions hurt the economy, but corruption hurt it more. Money disappeared. Oil profits vanished. Officials lived in luxury. Ordinary people lived in darkness. Electricity failed in poor neighborhoods. Water ran only part of the day. Hospitals lacked supplies. Schools lost teachers. Slowly, Maduro changed strategy. He allowed small private businesses. He relaxed some economic controls. Markets returned in limited form. Dollar payments became common. The economy stabilized slightly, but inequality grew. Two Venezuelas now existed. One was for the wealthy, lights on, full shelves, imported goods. The other was for the poor, dark streets, empty refrigerators, daily struggle. Millions remained abroad. Families stayed divided. Children grew up without parents. Parents aged without children. The country lost talent: doctors, engineers, teachers, students. Maduro spoke of victory. He said Venezuela had defeated imperialism. He said sanctions had failed. He said history would judge him kindly. But history does not listen to speeches. History looks at facts. Empty classrooms, broken hospitals, silent factories. Supporters said Maduro defended sovereignty. They said he resisted foreign control. They said he protected the revolution. Critics said he destroyed a nation. They said he ruled by fear. They said he crushed democracy. Both sides argued loudly, but one truth remained clear: Venezuela was changed forever. Maduro did not rise through education. He did not rise through reform. He rose through loyalty, through opportunity, through crisis. From bus driver to leader was possible. From leader to dictator was a choice. Power reveals character. Absolute power leaves scars. Maduro's story is not only about one man, it is about broken institutions. It is about silence. It is about fear replacing trust. A country is more than a leader, but a leader can break a country. Venezuela's future remains uncertain. Its past is written in hunger, in exile, in lost years. The streets that once formed Maduro now reflect his rule. People walk quietly. Shops open and close without warning. Hope is cautious. Some still believe in change. They whisper about democracy. They remember a time before fear. Others are tired. They focus only on survival. Politics feels distant. Freedom feels abstract. Maduro remains in the palace, protected by soldiers, surrounded by loyalists, speaking of victory. Outside, the nation waits. This is the legacy still unfolding, not a legend of success, but a warning. A warning about unchecked power, a warning about loyalty without limits, a warning about institutions that fail. The journey from bus driver to president inspired many. The journey from president to dictator broke a nation. And history will remember both.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Self-Study Every Day for more helpful lessons. Leave a comment and tell me what you want to learn next.